Day 100 of the war in Iran. I'll give you a moment with that. I'm Skelly. It's Sunday. The news found several ways to become more concerning this week. Let's go. This Sunday marks 100 days since the United States and Israel launched strikes against Iran. 100 days of conflict, 100 days of closed Strait of Hormuz, 100 days of gas prices that would make a grown adult weep openly at the pump. And according to the polling this week, most Americans still oppose the war. In fact, the numbers haven't really moved since before the war started. Experts describe the lack of public support as a significant political liability for the administration. One University of Maryland professor puts it plainly. He said, and I'm paraphrasing here, "Few Americans think this war serves American interests." Now, I'm not here to take political positions. I'm here to tell you what 100 days of sustained conflict in the Middle East means for the people watching this channel. Prep lesson number 1. Wars don't end on a schedule, so plan accordingly. When the strikes began in late February, most analysts gave it weeks, maybe a month. The ceasefire was supposed to hold. The negotiations were supposed to move quickly. And yet, here we are, 100 days later. The lesson? And I have said some version of this for longer than most of you have been alive. Actually, for longer than I was alive. And that is, a crisis never follows the timeline you're given. They extend, they escalate, they have consequences nobody announces in advance. 100 days ago, the average American was paying $3.12 for a gallon of gas. Today, it's $4.56 and climbing. This is not a coincidence. This is a direct, measurable consequence of a conflict most people assumed would be over by now. Here's what I want you to think about. If this conflict extends another 100 days, which is not a prediction, just a possibility, what does your situation look like? Are your food stores where they need to be? Is your fuel situation handled? Have you reduced your financial exposure to the systems that are visibly under stress? The time to answer those questions is before you need the answer. I've had 100 years to think about this. I'm telling you, now is the time. Story number 2. Saturday morning, Ukraine launched hundreds of drones at St. Petersburg, Russia's second largest city. They hit energy infrastructure, military targets, including naval arsenals and a naval base in the town called Kronstadt. Russia briefly closed maritime access to the area. An oil depot was set on fire, and one person has joined me. This is the second such attack on St. Petersburg in a single week. Let me say that again because I think it's important. Ukraine attacked St. Petersburg, one of Russia's most significant cities, home to 5 million people, twice in 7 days. Drone footages of burning oil depots were posted on social media by residents in real time. Prep lesson number 2. Infrastructure is a target everywhere. Now, you're in the Ohio Valley, not St. Petersburg. I understand. This feels distant. But here's why I'm covering it. Those drones hit oil depots, naval arsenals, and energy infrastructure. And while Russia scrambled to respond, global oil markets watched because Russian oil exports and Russian energy infrastructure are interwoven with global supply chains in ways that don't get explained clearly on the evening news. More immediately, this is a real-world demonstration of something preppers have understood for a long time. Critical infrastructure is vulnerable, not in a theoretical, abstract, tinfoil hat wearing way, but in 100 drones burning oil depots Cities told to shelter indoors kind of way. In 2026, last Saturday, your home is not going to get hit by a Ukrainian drone. That's not the point. The point is this: power grids, fuel depots, pipelines, water treatment facilities, these are systems. And systems have failure points. They have been failed intentionally in Russia this week and accidentally through negligence in cities across the United States for years. The prepper's job is not to predict which systems will fail or why. The prepper's job is to be ready when any of them do. What does that look like, particularly this week? Review your home's power situation. Do you have 72 hours of backup power a week? Generator fuel stabilized and rotated? A way to heat your home if the gas goes out in January? If the answer is no to any of those, that's your homework. St. Petersburg residents found out on a Saturday morning that their city was under attack. They were not given advance notice. They never are. Our third story for today. And this one I want you to pay close attention to because it's the clearest picture available right now of what systemic collapse actually looks like in real time. Cuba. This week, MasterCard and Visa suspended all transactions on the island, joining American card holders who were already blocked. Spanish hotel chains Iberostar and Malaya announced they are surrendering management of more than a dozen Cuban hotels each. A Canadian hotel operator has ceased operations entirely. A major Canadian mining company, one of Cuba's most significant foreign investors, is suspending operations and pulling its staff out of the country. And, perhaps most telling of all, multiple airlines have canceled flights into Cuba entirely. Why? Airlines are not flying into Cuba because there's not enough jet fuel on the ground to guarantee they can refuel and leave. Let that sink in. A country is now being bypassed by commercial aviations, not because of politics, not because of sanctions alone, but because the fuel situation is so unstable that the airlines can't guarantee their planes can get back out. Prep lesson number 3. Collapse is not an event, it's a process, and it starts with supply. Now I want to be very clear about something. I'm not predicting that the United States is Cuba, and I'm not saying collapse is imminent here. What I am saying is that Cuba's current situation is the most visible, real-time example available of what happens when supply chain failures compound each other without intervention. It starts with one thing: fuel shortages. Then foreign businesses lose confidence and pull out. Then the payment system fails. Then the airlines leave. Then the tourism collapse. Then the currency weakens further. Then food becomes scarce. Each step makes the next one more likely. None of it happens overnight, but all of it happens fast enough that unprepared people get caught. Now here's the practical piece. The single most important thing Cuba's situation illustrates is the danger of being entirely dependent on an external system for your basic needs. When MasterCard pulls out, the person with cash still eats. When the airlines cancel, the person who didn't need to fly is fine. When the fuel runs short, the person with a garden and a wood stove keeps warm. None of this requires a bunker. None of this requires a survival fantasy. It requires a pantry, a backup heat source, some cash on hand, a modest fuel reserve, and the habit of thinking one step ahead of the supply chain. Cuba didn't become Cuba overnight. It became Cuba the way most things go wrong. Gradually. Then, all at once. Now you have the advantage of watching it happen somewhere else first. Use it. And that's your week. Day 100 of the war most Americans don't support. Drones over St. Petersburg twice. And Cuba running out of jet fuel while international businesses quietly pack their bags. None of these stories are unrelated. They're all telling you the same thing in different languages, from different places on the map. Supply chains are under pressure. Energy is a weapon and a vulnerability. External systems fail, and the people who prepare, even modestly, will fare significantly better than those who don't. This has been your Skelly Report. I'm Skelly, and we'll see you next Sunday. Of course, assuming we're all still here.